There's a fine line between Saw voice and Batman voice,
Oh,
and it's
yeah?
like kind of a gray
I'm not
area.
wearing hockey pants. Versus, I'm not wearing hockey pants.
It's either a question or a statement. I'm not wearing hockey pants.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
You could do the actor. You could do the acting where you emphasize every word. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
differently.
wearing hockey pants.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Saw X is an inspiring movie about a life coach who is suffering from stage 4 terminal brain cancer, who then seeks an experimental treatment out in Mexico to see if he can cure himself of this terrible disease, but along the way learns a valuable lesson about if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. This is the 10th movie of the Saw franchise, which is near and dear to my heart. Most of the movies are not great, but the first Saw movie, I believe, is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Had a very strong impact on me as a young viewer when I started watching horror movies. It blew my mind. Some people lambast the franchise for being torture porn, but I do believe that there's high quality film making elements of the franchise scattered throughout mostly watch a one and done movie here and there every Halloween. Jason, you have seen the original Saw. How many Saw movies have you seen?
I think I've seen them all. They're very forgettable, so I I probably have seen 90% of them.
Okay, Remy.
This is just the second one I've seen. I've seen the first one and this one.
Oh shit!
But you've never seen any of the other Saw movies?
No, I knew that that Saw 1 was the peak of the mountain,
Right.
and it was just like anything else I'm gonna watch is gonna be not as good as this.
I liked Saw 1, 3, and this one. And the rest of them have fun elements, but mostly, yeah, I've seen them once, and you never think about them again. I'm kind of surprised because I like this movie. I saw this movie in theaters. I just watched it again. I like this movie as a Saw movie. Jason, you gave a big harumph when we started right before we recorded. You are not enthused about Saw X, the inspiring movie about a life coach going through terminal brain cancer treatment.
I love how we paint him as such like a great guy, and I even was doing that during the movie too, where Mimi's watching. Like, this is so gratuitous. I'm like, he's helping them, Mimi. They're gonna be better people after this. And she's like, well, they don't survive. I'm like, well, that was their choice. They could have been better people with one leg, you know. Yeah, it's the same old, same old. I mean, it's a very meh kind of movie. That's what I felt like the whole time. I was like, meh, yeah, yeah. It was just kind of one of those things. Forgettable. I mean, entertaining while you're doing it. I guess I'm wanting more character progression. He finished at the same place that he started at. And then I'm like, hold on, this is a horror movie. Should I be really like looking for this massive character progression? Slightly confused on when in the timeline this is. This is like between like 2 and 3 or 3 and 4.
I believe it's 1 and 2.
In between 1 and 2. Okay. So does he eventually cure his cancer then?
No. So spoilers for the Saw franchise in case you were wanting to binge all 10 movies like you should. So he dies at the end of Saw 3.
That's right. Okay.
And then from there on, they realize they made a horrible mistake by killing him, because then he's brought back for like the next 4 movies in flashbacks, and how he's like constantly training a new protege that like was never in any of the previous films. And then the next movie, he's training a different protege who then stabs that protege in the back. And it gets so confusing to like track of the timeline. Eventually, around like Saw 7, 8 or whatever, then it's like he's out of the picture and it's just copycats. And then this movie is the first one to bring back Tobin Bell like as a focal character as John Kramer for a long time.
I enjoyed it. It was different because I'm watching Mindhunter and Dexter right now, so I'm just in a serial killer throw, I guess. But it's interesting. The perspective is weird. Whereas you're from his perspective as he's actively torturing these people, as opposed to Saw 1. And I think the other Saw movies where he's more in the background, more hidden, mysterious character playing Jigsaw. And this one, he's more of just himself. So I kind of, it made it way less scary as far as like, it's not a scary movie at all. and which is interesting for a movie that's supposed to be a horror movie. It is horror, but it's not really scary because you're there. There's no mystery. There's no like evil lurking in the back. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. And as I say, there's some good, fun, creative kills. The poster is with the 2 eyeball suction cup or vacuum, but that's just in his brain. That doesn't even happen. He just like thinks about that happening.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it's like, oh no, he made the right choice. Like, go on. But I do like the idea that John Kramer is just constantly sees any person do something slightly mischievous, and he just comes up with the most horrifying torture device. He just some little kid like throws their lollipop on the ground, and he's just imagining a vacuum that sucks their brain out. Like
some random dude just shoulder checks him as he's walking by. Yeah, any person who just shoulder checks him as he's walking by is like, oof, I've got the worst way of taking out that shoulder.
So yeah, it was fun. That's something I'd rewatch, but it's simple. It sticks to the points. It progresses quickly, and you're in it. Nice little twist at the end, but it's kind of predictable.
Yeah, Tobin Bell was born to play this role, and what makes it so great, which Remy alluded to, is he's not, of all the horror villains, your Michael Myers, your Freddy Kruegers, of all these types, they're all very physically scary people. And John Kramer, it's just the look in his eyes. And in this movie specifically, it's funny because it takes place after 1 and before 2. They don't try at all to make him look younger. They don't try to make Shawnee Smith, who plays Amanda, she looks 20 years older with that, and allegedly getting a bunch of work done.
Lots of work done.
And but they don't even try to make him look younger. But every time he's just looking at someone, you're just imagining the wheels in the head of what horrible. I mean, there are funny moments that I think are supposed to intentionally be funny. Like there's moments because part of the movie looks like a Cialis commercial when he's doing the treatment and he's looking at the sunset, and it's like, you're imagining at the bottom there's all the fine print of like saying like this might give you suicidal thoughts or create the reverse bear trap to kill your opponents or something. But he's like sitting there like calm, and he's like writing up like this detailed sketch of what like one of his traps is going to be when he gets out of his treatment. Like I found it most amusing. But you're right, Remy. The perspective switching, because most of the movies, it's some person that made bad life choices is now in a room with 9 other people that made bad life choices, and now they have to go through these horrible traps that'll probably maim them to some degree if they can get out, but they probably won't, and they'll die. The traps in this movie compared to the first movie, did you like, because this movie's directed by the original editor who edited like most of the Saw movies, and then he's directed a couple of them, and he directed this one. I felt like it was very true. It felt very grounded, and not some of the Saw movies get like really crazy CGI, like weird traps that look so fake that it kind of pulls you out of it. But this did feel much more grounded. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions as to how did he manage, and like how long did it take him? He seems to put this together very quickly. And a lot of different types of torture devices. I mean, where the fuck did he get a radiation device? Like that one, I was like,
that was from they used that one in the basement of his little like lab, or his little like in that area where, because he's in the building that he got the surgery, right? That was like in the basement. That. So you see that kind of that machine in his little surgery kind of setup down there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they have a real radiation machine and a fake surgery. All right, whatever. Doesn't matter.
I think you're supposed to kind of be like, don't overthink about how John Kramer. I think it's like Noah. It's like we're going with this old man created this giant, all these traps in like a week. Use the Noah logic. Like Noah built a boat that saved the planet. John Kramer can create a radiation death mask.
That's fair. So yeah. I think it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it doesn't feel super ludicrous. The setup is simple. I like. Oh yeah, we had talked about this before we watched it. I was like, what's his background in? I was like, what does he have? Like a mechanical engineering sort of background? But no, he's a architect and civil engineer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is like. I guess enough of a background to get this insane creative pipe bombs strapped into your arms and radiation melting your skin off and poison gas, all the different stuff. Some of the, okay. Well, the one thing, dude, the part of the movie, I was literally laughing. She fucking pulls out the intestines and she's like, now we have rope. And they're using the intestines like a fucking lasso to pull the table, dude.
That's when Mimi walked out. She watched up until that moment. And she's like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, come on. Machete. She's seen Machete. And Machete, he slices a dude's stomach open, grabs his intestines, and then rappels down the side of a building. Like, it's not worse than that.
It's definitely one of those ones, the suspension of disbelief you have to keep just like reminding yourself and things. Because I did the same thing. I was like, wait, there's no way this frail old man was able to get like those chains like that and then that oil or the pipe bombs.
He's Amanda. Strapping young, definitely not 50 years old, Botox Amanda.
That's right. He's got that strapping young woman to do all the heavy lifting for him. Yeah, I had to constantly be like, okay, it's just a movie. It's just enjoy the trap. Don't try to think about how he created the trap.
That's where I like this movie as opposed to a lot of the forgettable Saw sequels. Is the Saw sequels, generally speaking, is just a bunch of cannon fodder, and they all get sliced up. But this did attempt, and the first part, like you could definitely say the first part of this movie, the first 30 minutes is pretty slow. It's building all of the characters that you're going to see eventually get dispatched, or at least get attempted to get killed. You're seeing all of them prior to just them awaking in some room, and then a videotape tells you, hey, this is all the bad things you've done, and here's why you're here. This way, it actually builds their characters up and then sets them up for the second and third acts of how John Kramer is going to unleash his wrath, which I did like that change to kind of the story. And again, it is the 10th movie, not including the Spiral. Very, very forgettable Chris Rock take on the Saw franchise. We should go through the different list of traps, which is the main event of any, I should say that there's the series of prelims, and then you get to the main event of the different traps. As Remy mentioned, the eye vacuum trap, which is what they use on the poster and everything. It is a little disappointing that it is just in his head, and you do get see one of the eyeballs getting sucked out, but it's not an actual trap that happens. The pipe bomb trap with Diego, who gets the pipe bombs strapped to his arms, and he has to cut his flesh. Did any of these traps for either of you give you give you that kind of recoil that you see?
The sawing of your own leg, and then with
the wire saw trap.
Oh, the wire saw, the ghillie. I forget what he called it, the Italian word for it, because he used to be like, it's an Italian. Or it's an Italian saw. Anyway.
Talking the Saw voice. We should have had to do the whole recording. All of us talking like this.
Welcome to the last page. You're probably wondering why Jason's here. He's here to learn that this movie's great.
We will make sure he thinks it's great.
There's a fine line between Saw voice and Batman voice. And it's like kind of a gray area.
I'm not wearing hockey pants. Versus, I'm not wearing hockey pants.
More, it's either a question or a statement. I'm not wearing hockey pants.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
You could do the actor. You could do the acting where you emphasize every word.
I'm
not wearing hockey pants.
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
So I the sawing of the leg, and I mean, I think the nastiest one really is the lobotomy, the self lobotomy. Fucking dude, I thought he was just gonna dig into his scalp, but he actually pulls a piece of it off, and it plops on the ground, and then digging in there. Oh, that was pretty nasty. That one got me. I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that one definitely. That's what's funny. I'm so desensitized to movies and gore, and I can pretty much watch most things, but that one, he's pulling at the brain tissue, and it's pulling more than he wants, and it's just it really did. It was very effective, and I appreciated that. You're right, Remy. This movie is not scary. It's not like a movie where you are afraid for the characters or whatever, but that was very effective, where I'm like, ugh, that ugh.
Yeah, not a jump scare movie. This was
No.
gratuitous, gross, very graphic kind of stuff that you'll think about later. The leg one, I think, that was hard for me to watch.
So we have the leg trap, we have the brain surgery trap, which we referenced earlier with the no, that's the brain tissue one. The radiation trap, which leads to basically the finale, which the twist of this movie is that the boyfriend that's in on the con of the head doctor lady, he shows up and seemingly is there because he got ripped off, but turns out that he's a part of the scam. And the very just classic Saw of John Kramer telling him, like, you don't want to do this. Like guns are not allowed. Those are not a part of the rules and all that stuff. And he's like, oh, shut up. And they're going to we're going to put you in the traps. And little does he know that really that this has all been thought out way ahead of time, and that he was supposed to show up so that John Kramer could then pretend that he was going to be a part of his own game and has to waterboard. And one of the great lines, cheesy lines that mostly the doctor, I feel like, is delivering a lot of the cheesy lines, where she says,
Not waterboarding, huh? Bloodboarding.
It's like very cheesy, but you can't overthink it. But I did appreciate the end of the twist that you can see coming if you've seen any of the Saw movies. But he's bloodboarding himself to save the little kid who shows up and is a part of, doesn't speak English, but is a part of the ruse. And then the greedy grifters go into the room by themselves because they're like, let's get the money and get out of here. And they go in there, and lo and behold, pulls the bag full of money, or it's supposed to be full of money. It's really just filled with papers. And then the clock, 10 minutes left, bomb. And then the Saw music kicks in, and it's just, I smiled when the person pulls the bag off and you see the clock and the door shut and the music kicks in. I just smiled because I was like, it's such a Saw, like, we knew we were gonna get to this point where you guys, thought you were getting one over on Jigsaw. He's getting one over on you. I love it. Final thoughts and ratings, Rembo. Does this movie make you want to watch any of the other Saw movies? Because I can recommend a few.
Some people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore.
I love that line, and that line does stick with me, and so it makes me want to go back and rewatch one for sure. I haven't seen one in a long time, and I almost think I could convince Tony to watch it. I almost think she did not care to be a part of this watch, but she like came out of the room, and I was like, "Honey, you missed it. They used somebody's intestines as ropes."
It's like, oh darn.
6.5, 7, somewhere in there. It's not like, I'd say 6.5, just because it is very simple. Like, the dialogue is not anything super intricate. The head doctor lady is so is corny, evil. Like, she's, for being like just a scam artist, she's like so psychopathic. That it makes it kind of funny. But overall, I had a good time. It was fun. It was creative, and not the sort of thing that I watch too often. But yeah, made me want to go watch Saw 1 again.
If you edited out the fantasy he has of hooking the guy up to the eyeball trap, you could tell someone that the way I introduced the movie, you could tell someone that, like, oh, it's a independent movie about this man who, goes on an experimental treatment, and because throughout it you'd be like, oh, he's like going on this trip and like, oh, he's like dying and has to come to grips with what it's like to die. You could see it up until the fact that, like, he then realizes when he goes to the room and it's empty of all the surgery equipment and everything, and he realizes he's been got. Up until then, you'd be like, oh, this is terrible. And then if you show this like an old person, and then all of a sudden he's hooking people up to traps and ripping their guts out and everything, it would be like the ultimate turn of a movie that I think people would be blown away if they did not know what they were watching.
That's a great point. I should try that on somebody sometime.
I didn't write many notes during this movie, and one of the few notes that I did write was exactly what you said, Mav, was this movie would have have been better if it wasn't attached to the franchise, or if you went in not knowing anything about it. If this was some standalone kind of, screwed over some guy and this is him, getting back at you and this is how he did it, it would have been a much better movie, I feel like, and shaving off some of the whole trying to connect it to the franchise stuff. I mean, it could have been a different actor, a different, name on the movie, and it could have been just as good or probably even better, but it is what it is. Them trying to connect it to a franchise rather than make their own standalone thing. I totally understand. And you're absolutely right. This is a very hard franchise to not make it just so gratuitous and so just like we're watching just fucked up stuff. Like, what was that one? Human Centipede. Something like just so fucking like a movie to be just gross and weird to just make a movie, and you could do that with this, so you have to almost have some kind of silly kind of element to it to make it a little bit more digestible. So I understand it's a very hard franchise to kind of get right, so it does that well. It makes it a little bit more approachable, kind of fucked up gory movie, than it is like watching a woman cut her leg off and you kind of being like, oh, rather than like, oh my god, why the hell am I watching this, kind of thing.
The bone marrow oozing out. That was another gross part.
Yeah.
That was really gross.
Yeah, actually, my stomach just turned, and remembering that just white stuff just like this is good dropping down onto there. Yeah. So it's you got to now then counteract that with some silly doll and some voice and some people being dumb. So it does that well. But like I said in the beginning, I mean it's a one and done kind of thing for me, and I usually base my my ratings on this stuff if I'd recommend it, and I would recommend this movie to someone. Be like, hey, just watch it once. It's fun. So, but I can't go higher than 6, man. It's like 5 or 6 though. 5.5. Let's give it that one. The middle.
Disrespectful. Absolutely disrespectful. There's plenty of 5.5 Saw movies. Let me tell you, this was not one of them. On the movie scale, I'd say it's 7 out of 10. Fun, enjoyable horror movie. On a Saw level, it's like an 8 out of 10. But I'd say it's definitely upper echelon. 1, 3 in this movie, I'd say, are the peak of Saw. I do like even though Shawnee Smith is 1,000 years old, it's cool seeing her back. I just love the way the detective guy, which he calls on the phone during this movie. You don't see him, and then you see him in the mid-credit scene. I just love that actor, like the way he looks. He just looks cool. I just like, there's certain actors, I just like the way they look. They're just perfectly made for cinema. That dude is made for cinema. I like that they brought him back for the mid-credit scene. I am excited to see another Saw movie, Saw 11. I can't wait. I do like that the Saw franchise is in the hands of Kevin I don't know how to say his last name. Gruder? Kevin Gruder. He's the guy who edited a lot of the Saw movies, directed a couple of them, and directed this one. And I felt like it was very much in the Saw vein. It felt like a Saw movie, and it looked like a Saw movie, whereas a lot of them got so crazy with the traps. I like that they brought it back to being more simple.
And that's last page.